It's no secret that everyone's going to be watching Colorado this season, but who has the most to gain from the Buffaloes succeeding in 2024?
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. We're talking about the 4 buffs. I think there's 4 of them. There could be more. You guys can comment below and let me know what you think. I think there's 4 buffs that have a ton to gain, and I would say the most to gain in 2024. Obviously, I'm going to start with this guy right here, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. He has the most to gain in the sense that he's building a program up. He has a lot of pressure on him, being that he's one of the most famous athletes ever, and realistically, he has to prove that he could succeed. Because obviously, if Colorado goes under 500 again, it's like, okay, what is the ultimate goal, or what is the ceiling of this program with Coach Prime at the helm? Now, I think it'd be a little unfair to judge him after 2 years, but as we all know, life isn't fair and people will be thrown in the judgments like it's hot potato. Like they're just gonna be like, you know what, this guy doesn't know what he's doing or whatever it may be. So I think Coach Prime has a lot to prove, or a lot to gain, if you will, because if he succeeds, recruiting's going to go up. His stature as a coach, he'll probably get a new contract extension. There's a lot of things working in his favor. In the sense of if he doesn't do well, then there's going to be some doubts about him. He may be put on the hot seat, but I think there's a lot more to gain than there is a lot more to lose. Because if you're Colorado, you don't put Coach Prime on the hot seat after 2 down years. You've had dozens of down years. He's bringing in attention. He's bringing in top talent. He just needs to figure out a way to get it together. So if he has success on the field as a head coach, he's only going to bring in more top talent, and then that's only going to help his program succeed more. Moving on, we're going to stick with the Sanders family, and we're going to go with Shedeur Sanders. And you're probably like, what does Shedeur have to gain that he hasn't already achieved? I think Shedeur has a lot to gain in the sense that he could become QB1 in this upcoming NFL draft class. I would say right now it's a mix between him, Quinn Ewers, Carson Beck. I think he has a chance to set himself apart from the group and kind of emerge as the bona fide best quarterback in the country. I think he has a chance to prove himself again, because last year heading into the year, and I myself had not doubts, it was just questions. I had questions, other people's had doubts. And there's a big difference, because when I say I had questions, I literally just wanted to see how well he performed with a new offensive line, what would be his 3rd new offensive coordinator, and at the Power 5 level. Other people were like, he's coming from the FCS to the Power 5. He's not going to be good. I just wanted to see how he was going to do. And he did quite well. He broke the record for most passing yards in the season, threw for nearly 30 touchdowns, only had a handful of picks. He was that guy. He has arm strength, accuracy. He has the intangibles. And I think in this year's offense, as he kind of described during Super Bowl weekend, is going to be more predicated on his decision-making, which should bode well, I would assume. I mean, I think he's a really smart quarterback, and I think with the ball in his hands and more control in his hands, we should only see him playing better and having more explosive plays than what we saw last year, which is kind of crazy to think about when you consider all the things he did last season. And in terms of his, I guess, draft status, the reason that he came back, at least according to his father / coach, Coach Prime, was he wanted to be QB1. That's why Coach Prime wanted him to come back. Obviously, you want him to come back so he can also win games, because I do think that part of Shedeur wanted to go to the NFL after this season, as we saw in that video on Well Off when they went to the Denver Broncos game. And Coach Prime was like, no, you're coming back. And now I think part of it was there's 3 reasons. 1, Coach Prime wants him to help build this program up. 2, he wants him to be the number 1 quarterback in the country, number 1 quarterback in the draft, which this year he wouldn't really have a chance of doing, because obviously you got Caleb, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. Those guys are all kind of penciled in at the top 3 spots. So I would say he'd probably be QB4 at best. And then lastly, the father element. This is another year of him being able to play for his father with his brother and have his whole family, because his sister plays basketball as well. His older brother is the well-off media owner. He's the guy that's recording, Deion Sanders Jr. is the guy that's recording all of this behind the scenes, great content that we get to see from Colorado. So it's like a one final hoorah for the Sanders family altogether. Because when they go pro, life changes. You get your own family, or whatever it may be. So Shedeur has a lot to gain in the sense that he could boost his draft stock. He could make himself more money, and he gets more time with his family. A lot to gain there. Third person, we're going to go to the defensive side of the ball real quick before we go back to the offense. And I was thinking about going pass rusher, but I just don't know which pass rusher is going to be the guy, because I feel like there's a lot of questions about BJ Green right now, just based on the well-off media videos. I love them. They're great. It also concerns me sometimes because there's guys where it's like, this dude was a dog last year. And I'm like, okay, BJ Green was an all Pac-12 player performer. And then I watch the videos and I'm like, oh, he's not really like living it up in Boulder right now. Like, he's not living up to the hype. He's not living up to the expectations, the standard, whatever it may be. Now, granted, there's a long time right now between March 6th and even the spring game is and at the end of April. So there's a lot to kind of a lot of time to build himself up. But I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I was also going to go with maybe someone like Samuel O in the sense that he could boost his draft stock. But I think the person who has the most to gain, it's not Travis Hunter either. I honestly, this is a hot take about Travis Hunter. I think he could sit the season out and still be a top 15 pick if he wanted to be. I would obviously hate that. I would love to see him play. But he's just that talented where he could not play and still be a first-round pick. But I think the person that we are all thinking, or if you haven't picked up on it by now, is Cormani McClain. Most to gain. Considering he's a former 5-star that really didn't have a role till the end of the season last year and kind of struggled in his biggest opportunity against Washington State, he has a lot to gain. He is, and this isn't me saying this. Let me preface this. This isn't me saying if he does not do well, he is a bust. But that is how people will start to look at him if he doesn't have a big year. I've already talked about it. I've already said I've done 2 episodes or maybe 3 episodes on him being a breakout. I think he's due for a breakout year, but I think he has a lot more to gain. He has a ton to gain. One, he has a starting role to gain. Outside of Travis Hunter and Shiloh Sanders, the rest of the secondary is up for grabs. He could start at corners, nickel, whatever it may be, don't care. Cormani McClain has not earned himself a starting spot yet, and he has that to gain. He has sort of the ability to gain validity to his ranking, if you will. I think him being ranked as a 5-star obviously puts a lot of pressure on him, and I would say as of right now, he has not lived up to that ranking. Now, it's not really fair for a fret to be like, you know what, that 18-year-old is not ready to be a first-round pick or is not ready to be one of the best players in college football. And it's like, that happens. It does. And so I think he could kind of live up to the expectations that were placed on him. And then also, he could just gain the respect of his teammates and the coaches. I think they respect him in the sense like, yeah, they respect everyone. But I think they want him to take that next level and become the dog they all expected him to be. So I think he has a lot to gain. And realistically, Coach Prime brought in a few guys that could start at corner. So if it doesn't work out for him, Cormani also has a lot to lose in the sense of he could be considered a bust. He could be a backup again, and he could just simply not live up to what everyone was expecting of him. And then finally, the person with the most to gain is Pat Shurmur, the offensive coordinator. I would say Robert Livingston, but this is his first chance as a defensive coordinator. So I'm not gonna hold him to the craziest standards because obviously there's going to be some growing pains. I imagine there's going to be some adjustments that he has to make along the way. But Pat Shurmur, I think he has a ton to gain. You look at his resume, NFL coach, college or offensive savant. Coach Prime picked him over Sean Lewis, even though Sean Lewis is literally or was literally one of the hottest names in college football this past season. And Coach Prime was like, you know what? I'm going with Pat Shurmur. Like, he's my guy. Pat Shurmur has a lot to gain in the sense, don't know if he wants to get back into head coaching. Don't know if he's happy with being a coordinator. But it's the biggest word in the dictionary. It's only 3 letters, but it's somehow the biggest word in the dictionary. If he does not perform with Shedeur Sanders and this much improved offense, everyone's going to be like, okay, Coach Prime needs a new coordinator. But if he does, he's going to be one of the better offensive minds in college football. That's just how it works out. He could gain that notoriety. He could gain, obviously, a larger position if he wants, and he could gain success for him and the program. He has a chance to really build something special with this offense. Now, obviously, everyone's going to be like, it's not going to be really him. It's going to be Shedeur. But no, we can't say that because obviously Sean Lewis had Shedeur and the offense line that he brought in. But nonetheless, Pat Shurmur has a chance to really make a name for himself as a coordinator in college football. Now, I don't know what his plans for after the season would be. Like, say Colorado goes 8-5 or 8-4, wins a bowl game, whatever it may be. So they're 9-4 or 8-5, 7-5 or 7-6, doesn't matter. If he kind of guides this offense to a really good season, what is there to gain for him? Does he get coaching offers, or does he kind of just stick around? I think he has a lot to gain in the sense that he could realistically become one of the better, more respected minds in college football. He would be credited with turning around what was a pretty disastrous season for the Buffs last season. So I would say those four are the guys that I think have the most to gain this next season. You guys comment below. Give me three or four. It doesn't matter. Give me who you think, not being the guys that I named, that you think have the most to gain this next season with a successful year for the Buffs. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. They have last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area, views from all the seats in the venue, and their lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and job loss protection. They have tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKED, capital O, lowercase n for $20 off your purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. So I appreciate you guys again, like I said, making me your first listen. We're here. We're talking about the Buffs, and we're talking about Shedeur on the cover. Kirk Herbstreit kind of floated it out, and I like the idea. I really think it's where they need to go with it. I really do. Let me break down the case. I've already talked about why I think him and Coach Prime and Travis Hunter could be on the cover. But Shedeur just kind of stands out as the face of college football this next season. If I asked 100 people who the face of college football next season is, I think I'd probably get 20 different answers. It'd probably be like Shedeur, Coach Prime, Nick Saban, even though he's not there, Lincoln Riley. If you're looking for players, Quinn Ewers, Brock. Oh my gosh, his name is slipping my mind right now. The Carson Beck, not Brock. Carson Beck from Georgia. You could go Harold Perkins from LSU. You could go maybe Jackson Dart from Ole Miss, or someone anyone. You could go a lot of different directions. You could go so many different directions. I'm probably leaving people out, and that's by design, because there's just so many kind of new people that are going to step up into bigger roles. And I think if you asked last season who the face of college football was as a player, easy answer, Caleb Williams. You'd probably get 95 out of 100 Caleb Williams. This year, I think it would be split all different ways. And I think if you phrase the question differently, like who has the chance to become the face of college football for this year, I think it'd be Shedeur Sanders. I think the Colorado quarterback, one, he has the marketability. He's the son of Coach Prime, so everyone knows who he is. Everyone, whether you love him, you hate him, you know the watch celebration, you know it's the Shedeur. DJ Khaled is doing it. LeBron James is well aware of him. Like all these notable athletes, I think Nikola Jokic did it. All these athletes, all these famous people know about Shedeur. And then you factor in, like I said earlier, with the most to gain, realistically, he could be the best quarterback in college football. So why wouldn't you want one of the best players at the most important position on the cover of your game? Now, I think a lot of the pushback against it would be, oh, he only won 4 games last season, blah, 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 blah. Well, he did. That's true. I can't argue with that. I think there's a lot more that goes against, like, I would say there's some stuff that goes against him, like the 4 wins, even though wins and losses isn't really the best metric to measure a quarterback, just because it's a team game. So I think for those people that are like, he was 4-8 last season, I think that makes sense that they say that, because obviously if you're not going to look at the game from a deeper perspective, that is true. But he also had the worst offensive line in college football. He had one of the worst defenses in college football, and he had no rushing attack. And he still managed to be one of the best players in college football. So that would be my counterpoint to that. I think Shedeur Sanders brings a lot of popularity to the game, and it would kind of be like a non-traditional power being on the cover of the game. And obviously it would help Colorado immensely. That's not really what the game is built for, but it would help Colorado immensely. I think realistically, it would be a huge opportunity for him. I think it would be a huge opportunity for the program itself. And like I said, he's marketable. He's, I believe, according to On3's NIL valuation, their top 100, I think he's number 2. Yeah. So their top valued NIL athletes in college sports are currently Bronny James, number 1, which is the son of LeBron James, plays guard for USC. Then Shedeur, number 2, highest ranked football player. Then it's Livy Dunn, the gymnast, Caitlin Clark, the basketball player over at Iowa, who is literally changing the game for women's basketball. Go check her out if you haven't. She's currently, I think I saw a stat that they had there was more people watching her games than men's basketball. She's just generating views. And then Arch Manning, number 5, Travis Hunter, number 6, Quinn Ewers, number 7, Angel Reese, LSU basketball player, women's basketball player, number 8, Jalen Milroe, number 9, Carson Beck, number 10. So there's a lot of these guys where it's like, football guys at least, where it's like they could have a case, but Arch Manning's out of the game, hasn't played a meaningful snap of college football. Quinn Ewers could be on the cover, wouldn't shock me. Carson Beck, I feel like he's more regional than he is popular. I think if I'm going to pick between like quarterbacks that are popular, it would be Quinn and Shedeur. I think those two are the most nationally known names. And I think Shedeur kind of has the edge just because I feel like he's kind of got more of a proven track record in terms of his ceiling. Like, I think even though the win-loss record wasn't the same, I think Shedeur showed more flashes of being like an explosive, exciting player than Quinn Ewers. Probably a hot take, but either way, I think Shedeur would make the perfect cover. Kirk Herbstreit, when he was on his podcast with his sons, kind of suggested the same thing. So we'll just have to wait and see where they end up going. It's going to be coming this summer, the game is, but I don't know when they're going to kind of announce or tease the release of it. Maybe if you guys want Conspiracy Kevin to come into the chat, Colorado spring game is late April. Maybe they're going to announce the spring game that Shedeur is going to be the cover of than the EA Sports college football video game. I think that could kind of be like a kind of teaser or a good way to announce it, a little subtle drop, because obviously Colorado's their spring game is going to be televised again. I'm 99% certain. So that'd be the perfect way to announce it, in my opinion. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the ever important defensive back battle. But first, a word from our sponsors over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. We are about 38 subscribers away from 5,000 on YouTube. Let's get there. The number is getting closer every day. I appreciate all the support you guys are giving me. Love every second of this show. Love all the content I've made. Love all the comments and feedback I've gotten. It's really fun. We're talking about the defensive backs, though, because I talked about Cormani McClain earlier. I've talked about Travis Hunter, and it's like, where does Colorado go for the defensive backs? How important are the defensive backs? Well, you look at the Big 12, and I've said this a few times, and it's not to take away anything from these quarterbacks. I think they're a talented group. But the Pac-12 last season had Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Noah Fifita down the stretch. They're supposed to have Cam Rising. They had Cam Ward. There was just so much talent. And I look at this Big 12 group of quarterbacks, and I'm like, you know what? I could see this group kind of being not nearly as good. Like, I don't think they're going to produce, outside of Shedeur, a first-round pick at quarterback. But they're a talented group. Don't take that away from them. And I think the secondary for Colorado was kind of masked by how bad their run defense was last season. I think they kind of got away with a lot. I think in the sense of, not penalty-wise, they were penalized all the time. But I think they kind of got away with how poorly they performed because the run defense and the offensive line were so bad. And now I'm like, okay, let's turn around and look back there. Like, what's going on back there? Obviously, Robert Livingston is now the defensive coordinator. He has a safeties background. Coach Prime, head coach. If you guys didn't know, he's one of the best defensive backs, if not the best defensive backs to ever play the game of football. So they have all the coaching they need. They just need to put it into effect. And so I'm looking at the corner spots and I'm looking at the secondary spots, and you have to really take into consideration that while Cormani McClain, I think he's due for a big year. I think he's due for a monster year, like huge year. I think he could happen. I also think that they brought in his replacements. I also think that there's a lot of guys who are going to be vying for starting spots and may not, like guys last season that started, may not get the start again. So this is kind of what we're working with. Corners, Travis is CB1. Never will lose that spot unless he's injured. Obviously, led the team or was tied for the team lead in interceptions the past season with 3, and also was tied for the team lead in pass breakups. He's cornerback number 1. Who's going to start off opposite him? There's Preston Hodge. Obviously, he could be like the nickel corner. He could play safety or whatever it may be. He was listed as a safety in the portal. DJ McKinney. I think he has a lot of talent. If you told me by the end of the year it'll be DJ McKinney and Travis Hunter locking people down on opposite sides of the field, would not shock me. You also have Cormani McClain. Former 5-star, has a lot to prove, a lot to gain. Didn't play that well last season. Omarion Cooper started last season for majority of the season, started in 8 games. Had some issues that led to big plays, happens. And then there's also Adam Hopkins, who was a 4-star receiver but flipped to corner, and now he's listed as a corner. So does he come into the mix? Like, we always talk about Omarion, Cormani, and the transfers, but what does Adam Hopkins have to say? Does he kind of carve out a role for himself? And then there's the nickel/star. You have Miles Slusher and Cameron Silman-Craig. Huge battle to look out for. I think Miles Slusher, when he played well, was really, or like when he was playing and healthy, was really good. I really think so. But when he kind of got banged up and faded down the season, lost a spot, and it was like, what happened to Miles Slusher? I think Cameron Silman-Craig, excuse me, has all of the makings of a really good defensive back, but it wouldn't surprise me if there's a guy like Miles Slusher that comes into the mix. And then you go to safety, and it's like Shiloh Sanders is locking up one spot. But that other one, does Trevor Woods return to safety? I think he's kind of been like a linebacker hybrid guy. Does Carter Stottmeyer, who moved from corner to safety, does he stick around and start there? Or does Vito Tisdale, the Kentucky transfer, kind of get in the mix? That is all these position battles I will be looking out for in spring. I think there's 2 spots that are squared away, Travis and Shiloh. Everyone else, Cameron Silman-Craig spot, the opposite corner spot, and the other safety spot, I don't know. It is going to be an all-out war. I've talked about this multiple times already. If you guys had to give me, we'll go 2 corners, 2 safeties, and a nickel. So 5 starters at secondary. Who would your 5 be? I'm really excited to see how this pans out. I think whoever starts needs to be consistent in tackling, needs to be consistent in coverage, and they need to have the ability to make big plays, because Colorado, when they were having success last season, were making big plays on defense in the turnover game. So who could do that for Colorado? You guys comment below what you think. Also, I want you guys to make sure to like, subscribe, follow. We're almost at 5,000 subscribers. I appreciate all the support you guys have given me. I will see you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great Wednesday, great hump day. See you guys on Thursday.